Welcome to another episode of the Governese channel where we teach you how to win government contracts. In today's episode, we're going to share with you what is B2B, B2C, and B2G. We're going to share with you a technique called B2B2G and why that's important to you as a business. We're going to share with you what are the fastest way and best ways to win government contracts. We're going to share with you what's the difference between the Fed and the SLED market. And we're going to share with you what's a good exit strategy for your business, whether you're going to build a legacy company or sell your business. We're going to share with you why you need a capture team. Ultimately, we're going to share with you what you need to do to grow your company in the government space. I'll see you on the inside. Hey, Crystal. Hey, we're back at another episode of Governese. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, same here. Episode 7. How was your holiday?
Doing shows with you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I enjoy them as well. It's great to, share information based on, what you know and your personal experiences, as well as, it's good to, I learn things from our sessions, even though, we've talked and we've done a lot of different things together, but it's always a learning experience for me as well. So I enjoyed as well.
Yeah, there's just so much to learn. You never know everything because the government market, there's layers and layers and layers. So,
right.
Go at it.
Yeah. And things do change, new rules, regulations. So, there's always something new to learn about government contracting.
Well, today, that's what we're going to be talking about. Another layer of Governese. So on the Governese channel, we're going to be talking about another layer of what you need to do to be successful in the space here. So today, I was thinking, I want to talk about what are some government contracting strategies in terms of helping business to win. And I want to address it from two perspectives. What is the fastest way to winning government contracts that you've seen out there, I've seen out there. So I want to discuss that. And then the second thing is I want to discuss what are some best long-term strategies to be successful beyond just a quick path, because sometimes quick is not sustainable. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about short-term and long-term. So that's kind of what I want to discuss in today's Governese channel here. So, but let's start with that. So in terms of what you've experienced in the government market, what have you seen in terms of companies that have been successful in a very short period of time? Some things that you've seen, and I'll share some things that I've seen. And then at the later on, I want to go through a more structured conversation and take everybody who's here with us through a very structured process of what I've seen from my perspective as well.
Yeah, so for me, just me personally, and what I've seen with, other small businesses, getting to a government contract quickly through subcontracting. That is a great way to get your feet wet, get an understanding of how government contracting works without being the company, the prime, the company that's up front that has to do all the work. Being a sub has its great advantages. I mean, you get past performance, and you again also get to see how contracting works, understand, the ins and outs of interacting with the government personnel, because there's reporting and information that has to be provided to them on a regular basis. And as a subcontractor, you would be providing some of that information still, but you wouldn't be, upfront as much. So I think that is a great way to get into government contracting. And actually, all of my federal contracts thus far have come through subcontracts. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a huge proponent of it. So I know a lot of people just want to jump into being a prime and, making millions right off the bat. But I think subcontracting is definitely a way to go, and it's worked for me.
Oh, yeah, I love that strategy there. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that in terms of being a subcontractor. So what are the benefits of being a subcontractor? You talked about earlier about past performance. Can you share a little bit more about why past performance is critical and by using subcontracting as a strategy to get to contract fast? Dive into the past performance side of it.
Well, I mean, anytime you're doing work or responding to solicitations for the government or even talking to them, they want to, they do want to know about your past performance. I mean, what type of work have you done to help your clients reach a particular goal or solve a problem? So they want to know how you've done that in the government space. And additionally, your past performance doesn't have to be in the federal government space. If you're applying for federal contracts, it can be work that you've done outside of the government. So that's, you're scored usually on that in your RFPs. So it is important to actually, be able to show what you have done and what you can do through the work that you've done in the past. So it is very important in contract.
Yeah. So by being a subcontractor, you yourself, even though you have no past performance, especially if you're a new company, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to the government market, they normally will ask 3 past performance, or, yes, for some of you who are not familiar with the term past performance, references, 3 projects that you worked on as a company. And so they want 3 references. Well, if you're a new company, you don't have 3 references, or maybe you have success in the private sector, but not in the government sector. And maybe the past performance, they want you to have relevant experience with other government agencies, and you don't have that. So by being a subcontractor, you overcome this huge obstacle of not having references. Mm-hmm. When you're a subcontractor with a large prime or even another small business who have experience, and let them be the prime and you're just a sub to them, you don't have to worry about past performance. You're using their past performance, and then you get to build past performance when you're on these projects. Mm-hmm. So as a subcontractor, when you're a sub on a project in the future, you can use those projects that you're a sub on as your own personal past performance in the future as well. So I love that about being a subcontractor. You don't have to worry about past performance, and more importantly, you can build past performance by being a subcontractor to another company. So that's a great strategy.
Yeah, another component to that is that primes may want to have you as a subcontractor so that because of your past performance. Mm-hmm. So they may be submitting, a solicitation response because they have you as a subcontractor and you have the past performance needed to get the contracts or part of it. So that's another advantage for the prime, mm-hmm, getting a sub that has that past performance.
That's very true, because there may be another company, they may have 1 past performance or 2, but mm-hmm, they need to leverage your past performance as well. Right. So they come to you, they say, hey, we want to be the prime, but we need somebody else's to bring some other past performance, mm-hmm, to add value so that we can meet the 3 requirements in terms of client references. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm often brought in, from a project management perspective, because a lot of companies don't have dedicated project managers as a part of their team. And so we fill that project program management gap for a lot of our prime contractors.
Well, I love this idea about, one of the fastest ways to get into government contract is by being a subcontractor. Any other thoughts you have in terms of some other ways of how business can get to contracts or get to revenue fast in the government space?
Other ways to get to it. I mean, there are a little bit more complicated, but you can do joint ventures. You can just do, teaming partnerships with other companies that offer, like services or complementary services, mm-hmm, to what it is that you do. Even if your goal is federal contracts, maybe a faster way to get a contract is to start at a local or county level, and then kind of work your way up and build that past performance so that you're ready when it's time, for federal work.
Yeah, so maybe instead of going directly to the federal, maybe start at the local level, because your footprint is right there. It's in your backyard. So mm-hmm, you don't have to necessarily go to DC or go to, right, 2-3 hours travel to a military base to, mm-hmm, federal work. But if you're in the city, if your business is located in a small city, well, start with their small city, and they have less people knocking on their doors.
Right.
And even though you have more capacity to do more work, but your back door may be the best place to start. So maybe at a city level, a municipality level, a county level, state level. So that I do agree with you. That may be another fast way to get started. Hey, I want to take a minute to say thank you to our sponsors of the Governese channel here. And if you're watching this here, please visit our sponsors because they make it possible for us to do the Governese channel. Our first sponsor is the Government Contractors Association. The Government Contractor Association, or GCA, is a national trade association comprised of commercial contractors, small and large companies, and government agencies, federal agencies, state agencies, local agencies, government staff, universities, nonprofits, and many other entities out there. Their vision is to create access to help small businesses to get into the government market, to open doors for commercial companies into the government marketplace, and to support government agencies in accessing more qualified contractors. Their mission is to educate, facilitate, and advocate for their members based on becoming the premier government contractor association with their 3 pillars. Learn more about the Government Contractor Association at govassociation.org. 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 I like, in terms of a fast way to get to contracts, I like sole source. Sole source is my favorite in terms of the fastest way to get into contracts.
Yes, that's ideal.
So for our Governese word of the day here, we're talking about sole source contract. And sole source is a type of contracting vehicle where it's done purely through trust, purely through relationships. When an agency trusts your company that you can do that type of work, the contracting officer can do a direct award to your company without having to bid on it. You don't have to compete against any other companies. They just say, hey, can you do this type of work? And you say, yes, I can. And they can award you a sole source contract. That saves you a lot of time. So that's really probably one of the fastest way to get into contract is sole source.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, having the relationships are very important. So when you don't burn bridges, because there are advantages to having those relationships. And the other part to the sole source piece is I've had a contract sole source to me, but I had performed the work prior. And so when it came time to renew, because I had the exact experience that was needed, because I worked on the previous contract or task order, then I was, awarded that sole source. And so they didn't have to go outside of the organization to look for work. So yes, that is a great way to get work. And as small businesses, that's what we really want to do. And so building those relationships so that you can get those sole source awards is a great thing.
Yeah, sole source is so powerful. It's a powerful tool for small businesses, when they're trying to get into the government market and you don't always have, all the strength of what a larger company have, but by creating credibility about your company, creating trust and building relationships, they will sole source you contracts. And it's sole source is different at different level, right? At the city level, it may be 10,000, it may be 50,000, depending on the city itself. Like, for example, the city of Atlanta, I looked through the regulations, and the city of Atlanta sole source contract can be done at $100,000. $100,000. I've seen sole source with contracting officer for the university system. I believe their sole source from a contract officer to a business is 10,000. So it just depends on which municipality, which agency, which government organization you're working with. Sole source is at a different level. But I love the federal market because sole source at the federal market for an 8A certified company is $4 million. Now, if you had a choice, Crystal, do you want to build a relationship with a city that can sole source you 100,000, Or do you want to build a relationship with a contracting officer at the federal level that can sole source you $4 million?
Well, I'm going to take the option of both.
You don't have to choose. Is that what you're saying?
Right, I can do both. Yeah. Because we like $100,000 now. We're not saying we want that. We'll take that.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I think the great thing is you can eat the cake and get get all the trimmings with it, right? You don't have to just choose one. That's the beautiful thing about the industry. You can do state level, city, county, federal. There's no limitations to what you can do. So yeah, pursue both. Why not? Well, I didn't see that coming there, but I love the answer. Yeah, so sole source is very powerful now. Now, one of the most powerful sole source contracting vehicle out there is with the Super 8As.
Mm-hmm.
Super 8As are for Alaska Native corporations, the tribally owned corporations, Hawaiian owned corporations, and so forth. But Super 8A through the tribally owned corporation, Alaska Native corporation, their sole source threshold is $100 million through the DoD.
Wow.
That's powerful.
Yes, it is. Very.
Very. And it cannot be protested.
Wow.
So if you're a small business and you're looking for sole source capability, then what you want to do is you want to team up with a tribally owned corporation. Let's assume you're really good at cybersecurity, or you're really good at janitorial services, and you've been building a relationship with the agency. Well, team up with a tribally owned corporation, a Super 8A company, Alaska Native Corporation, and then let them sole source you a $50 million contract to the Super 8A. You do 49% of it, they do 51% of it. And that's super powerful. So that contracting vehicle there is really awesome. I love that as a quick way to get into contract as well. Using the Super 8A methodology. Well, so those are some things that we've discovered, and shared. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into some contracting strategies. So let me go in here, and I'm gonna pull up my screen here and share a little bit here. So I prepared a little bit of in terms of the top government contracting strategies to help businesses understand and key techniques and strategies in terms of how to get to contract fast. Obviously, what you and I have shared about being a subcontractor, using sole source, building past performance, all those are very important and very key to having a fast strategy. But I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this here. So I want to talk about the B2C market. And for those of you who are listening, B2C, what's your guess? What is B2C? B2C. Yes, B2C is business to consumers. And then what is B2B?
Business to business.
Business to business, yes. And B2G, what is that?
Business to government.
Oh, yes, that's what we're talking about here, business to government. But if you understand that these are the three key market segments that you can build your business around, your product or service can be direct to a consumer, your product or service can be direct to another business, or your business or product can be to a government agency. Governese is all about more so the third item here, the B2G market, but many of you can sell to other business, to other consumer as well. But I want to introduce a hybrid model in terms of this fourth concept here. And in the government market, there is the B2B to G. Now, have you heard of that concept, Crystal?
I have not.
Well, you've been doing it, but you just haven't quantified it as B2B to G.
Right.
So B2B is business to government. So business to government. That's really what this is a very quick, very important strategy. And this is what you and I have been talking about, but now we're putting a specific principle around it.
So essentially it's subcontracting?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, but there's two ways of how you do that there. So let's dive into the two ways of how to do B to B to G. So I'm going to go into the first one. Let me zoom in a little bit and let's focus on the first one here. So the first methodology in terms of B to B to G is this here. So let's assume that you are the prime and you're the prime here. You're the middle B, you're the second B. And you go out there and you find a whole bunch of different manufacturers, different suppliers, different teaming partners, and you're the prime and they're your subcontractors. So the first B is a sub to you, you're the prime, and you take the product and service to the government. So this is a very important strategy. Let's assume that you sell products. Let's assume you sell medical equipment, medical supplies. Well, you're not a manufacturer. Mm-hmm. You're just a distributor. So in that scenario, you are the prime. You set up your company as a distributor of healthcare products. And then you go to manufacturer one, treat them as a supplier one, supplier two, supplier three. You can have 20 different suppliers. They are the B to B, which you're the second B and you're the prime. And then you sell their product and service to the government. You don't have to manufacture a single thing. Right. All you do is you create relationships and then you take the products to the government. So this is a very effective way of how you can get into the government market fast, because you don't have to go out there and do research and development. You don't have to go out there and get patents done. You don't have to do any of those things. You go to a supplier, you say, hey, I love your product. I want to sell your products to the government. What's my cost? And then you mark it up and you sell it to the government. And so if your cost is $100, you go and sell it to the government for $150 a piece. Mm-hmm. So very, very effective product. If it's a product, if you're a product-driven company, this is a very, very good technique in terms of how to get to revenue fast. Mm-hmm. Now, this technique also works with services as well. So let's assume that you're a service company and you don't have a deep bench, right? Especially in the IT world, with what your experience with Crystal. So in the service world, there may be a company that need a lot of other service support. So let's take IT as an example. The government wants to roll out a new software with their agency. Let's talk like a document management software. So you as a prime, you did not develop a software to do document management. You're an IT company, but you don't have a software that can do document management. So you go and you create multiple suppliers. You have supplier one, supplier two, supplier three. Supplier one has a unique type of document management software. Supplier two may be a ERP software solution. Supplier three may be a budgeting software solution. Many different software out there. Government needs different type of software solutions. Mm-hmm. You, as a service company, you need a software, but you also need the labor, because the software is really cheap, right? The software side of it is cheap. It's the labor of implementation. It's the conversion. In fact, I'll let you share to that point a little bit, because you've done a lot of these, project rollout, Crystal. So talk to our audience here a little bit of rolling out an example of an ERP solution to a government agency. What's the process that they go through?
Like you said, it's the implementation. Well, first you gotta, scrub the data that's in and this is a process that a lot of companies miss, but you want to clean that data up before you move it into a new system. So that's a process. And then, you have to have a team of people to do that. You have to have dedicated employees within the organization that know this data, that can confirm the accuracy of it. So there's a lot of there can be some manual work involved in that. There are systems that can, scrub the data, but there's going to be some manual work. And as you said, the conversion piece, getting your systems, your converters prepared and set up to actually move the information over. And then there are a lot of times you have to work in parallel, meaning that you have to continue to use this old system while you are prepping your new system for your go live. So that's a part of the process. And there is a lot of planning, meetings and management of those processes. And you have a lot of different, again, you have your suppliers that you have to manage their work. You have the employees of the organization whose work you have to manage. So there's a lot of moving parts to, making that conversion happen. And then, there's testing that has to happen, and continuous testing. And then, when it comes to the government, there's a whole nother piece where the systems have to be certified, a security certification that has to happen before that system can even go into production. And usually that happens like that process starts at the very beginning of development. It's not something that you wait and do. So, so with the government implementing a system, it's very time consuming. Again, that security piece is a big part of implementing systems within the federal government. And so
the software side, the software may be, let's assume it's an ERP software solution. Mm-hmm. That may be $300,000 for the software, but the labor behind it to do the migration and the testing environment and the full rollout, that could be $2-3 million.
Absolutely, because there's a contractor that's going to be performing that work on behalf of the government, and that serves as that liaison between the supplier of the systems and the government. So yes, the labor is definitely what costs a lot.
Okay, so in this example here, supplier one could be the software company, the ERP software company. Mm-hmm. Supplier two may be a project management ERP project management company. Supplier three can be software engineers, data scientists that's going to come and take the legacy system, migrate all the data, move it to the new test environment, roll it out, implement cyber strategies, and make sure that it's sound before it's full implementation.
Right.
Okay. Yes. All right. So this is a very key B2B to G model in the government market. It's a very important strategy. Let's go into the next side of it. And this is what we talked about earlier. This is the B2B to G model, but this is where you're not the prime. You are the sub. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this here at the beginning of the show here, that let's assume that you are really good at what you do. Let's start with the product side. And you can make, let's use cabinets as an example. You're a cabinet manufacturing company, and you can make cabinets for offices. You can make cabinets for laboratory. You can make cabinets for vehicles, for government vehicles, where they can put the cabinets into police vehicles, lock up the firearm. You can make all types of cabinets, and your supplier too. Your company is a manufacturer of cabinets. Well, you know what you're good at is making cabinets. You're not good at navigating the government market. In this example, you would go and find a prime that's already, you're the first B. You're the B to B. The second B is the prime. You're not the prime. You don't want to be the prime if you're a cabinet maker. You want to find someone that's already selling other type of equipment in the government market. So for example, somebody may already be selling other cabinets of your competitors. They may be selling, maybe not cabinets, they may be selling desks. They may be selling shelvings. They may be selling roofing equipment. They may be selling other type of equipment, other types of similar products, but not exactly like yours in the government market, because they have a footprint already. They have the relationship with government agencies already. So your goal as a manufacturer of cabinets is to find primes that are selling products. Let them be your distributor in the government market. So this is a B to B to G. The prime is the middle B. You are the first B. The government is the G here. So B to B to G in terms of being a sub is a very effective way in terms of how to get your products to the government as well. Now, let's talk about services. Product is easy, right? Products, if you're a manufacturer, you don't have time to go and learn Governese. You don't have time to go and get registered as a vendor. You don't have all those different, it takes time. It takes, on average, it takes about 36 months to build your infrastructure in the government market. So you don't have 36 months. You're good at what you do. But let's talk about services here. If you are a service company, how does that work in terms of working with another prime? Any thoughts around that, Crystal? If you're a service company, what do you look for in terms of a prime to help you take your service to the government?
Well, I look for primes that have experience in or relationships within the agencies that I'm interested in working with and building a relationship with. That's one of the main things. And also look at the performance of that prime as well. Have they performed well? Because that may be reflective of you if they haven't performed well in the government space. So, just kind of the reputation of that particular prime. And what services they offer are their services complementary to what it is that or the same as what it is that I'm offering as a service provider. So there are just a number of things to consider when looking for a prime. But those are the things that you have to plan for and build into your strategy so that you know exactly what to go after, what as far as the primes are concerned. You're just you're making the right connections that will move you forward. And as you pull up the USA spending, you can look up and see what kind of contract awards those primes have received in the past and the amounts, because that information is public data. So just kind of get a full picture of insight into what that prime has done over the last however long within the federal space.
Okay, that's awesome. So let's do a little bit of deep dive. So using the B to B to G, what we want to do is we want to find out which primes are already winning contracts based upon your industry. And if you can find the companies that are already winning contracts, then you can engage them, let them be the government expert. You keep doing what you're good at. So this is being a sub. So if you go to usaspending.gov, this should be all of your favorite website. If you're listening to this, usaspending.gov should be your number one of your top favorite websites out there. You go to USA Spending where it says award search, click on advanced search here. And we're going to come in here and we're going to look for, our goal here is to find successful companies that's already winning contract. These are prime contractors that's already winning. And we want to see how they can, you can be a partner to them. So we're here. I'm going to check. I'm going to narrow down to just fiscal year 2021 on the left-hand side here. I'm going to just check that there. So let me zoom in a little bit here, 2021. And I'm going to drop down to NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification System. I'm going to do it based upon NAICS codes. So you want to do it for IT?
Yeah, do 541611. That's my primary.
Okay, 611. So that's administrative management.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to do administrative management, general management consulting. So lots of project management, program management, administrative management all falls under this next code here. So let's do that 1 year, and let's do a quick search. So I'm going to submit that to see what shows up. So for 1 year under this one NAICS code, there's 18,000 project that was awarded, 18,561 project that was awarded under this one NAICS code. And where it says the recipient name, it gives us all of the companies that have won, under this NAICS code here, 541611. So if I know this here, if I know this information that these are the companies, I can see who's winning what. So like this first company called Chemonics International, they won a $4.6 billion contract. So if I'm a B to B to G and I'm the first B and I'm looking for the second B, who is that prime that's winning contract? Well, Chemonics, they've won $4 billion. They got a second one, $1.6 billion. This becomes a company that I want to engage.
Right.
And so I can kind of do it. I can resort this here in alphabetical order, and see who's consistently Zoop Dinan, Zentech Consulting. They won a few. And so, but more importantly, what you can do is at the very top here, there's a download button here. At the very top, you can do a download and download all 18,000 projects that have been won, and you can see who's won those contracts. Mm-hmm. Now, for today, we're not going to go into a lot of the details of how to do this here, but feel free to do the award, download everything, and it's going to create an Excel sheet. And from that, you can use it to navigate, and you can sort it and filter it to see who has won the most contract in your primary NAICS code. Mm-hmm. So this is one way of how you can get to it. And we'll do a more exhaustive training at some point in the future. But today we're going to talk about the quickest strategies in terms of how to get to contracts. So coming back to this, so we talk about B to B to G. Let's talk about a few other techniques in terms of how to get to government contract fast. So I listed here in terms of some short-term strategies. Obviously, we've talked about this, sir. I believe the top best strategy is to be a subcontractor.
Yes.
And then the second is to start with micro purchases. Micro purchases are projects under $10,000 at the federal level. Now, if you're doing the state and local level, their micro purchase may be $5,000. Their micro purchase may be $500, maybe $1,000, depending on who you're working with. But the federal level, any project less than $10,000 is considered micro purchase. And in a micro purchase, the government can just do a PO, a purchase order. Mm-hmm. They don't have to go through a full 6-month procurement purchasing process. If they like what you're doing, they can just say, okay, hey, Crystal, we need a project manager to come and manage this rollout. And if it's less than $10,000, they can just do a purchase order, write you, pay you through electronic funds transfer, done. So mm-hmm. Micro purchase is a great short-term strategy in terms of how to win contract fast. Now, we talked about simplify acquisition procedures. Simplify acquisition procedures are what we call SAP, right? Mm-hmm. SAP is any project at the federal level that is under $250,000 is considered a SAP project. SAP just means that at the federal level, projects under $250,000, the government or the contracting officer must first consider a small business to do that type of work. And SAP usually comes out as an RFP, RFQ, request mm-hmm. for quote. Mm-hmm. And RFQ typically is under $250,000. Strategy number 4 is to focus on building your capture team. When a business get into the government market, your goal is to build a team around yourself. Your capture team has to do with your government department, your teaming partners, your board of advisors, a proposal writer, a relationship manager. If you don't have those things, you're not going to get to contract at all. So those are very key in terms of important short-term strategy. Also, to build your past performance, we kind of highlight that earlier. Without past performance, it's hard to get to the bigger projects. So by starting with micro purchases, which is our technique number 2 here, it's easy to build past performance. By being a subcontractor, it's easy to build past performance. So those earlier strategies help you to build past performance. But specifically, when we're talking about building past performance, it takes us to step number 6, which is focus on low profit margin. Don't start off by trying to make the most profit margin. Start off by get your foot in the door. Even though you may not make the 20, 30, 50% margins, focus on 8% margins, 6% profit margins, 10% profit margins. Get your foot in the door, build the relationships, build past performance. Then long-term, look for higher profit margins. So this is a very important strategy in terms of focus on past performance, but building lower profit margins to kind of get yourself going in the government market. And in terms of choosing low profit margins as a first strategy, in the government market, there's different approaches. Different agencies have different approach, right? The federal government versus SLED. And SLED, do you remember what SLED stands for?
State, local, and education.
Yes. So for most business in the government market, there's two types of government agencies that you want to go after: federal agencies and SLED agencies. SLED is state. There's 50 states. Local has to do with counties, cities, and other local municipalities, unincorporated municipalities, and so forth. And so there's 35,000 cities, and there's over 3,000 counties. So that's the else of it. ED is education, university systems, school system, county school system, public school systems, all that is ed. So for the federal, my recommendation and suggestion is to spend 80% of your energy at the federal level and 20% of your energy at the SLED level. So that's kind of my suggestion in terms of a strategy in the government market. Now, if you have to guess, why do you think we should, or business should spend most of their energy at the federal level? What are your thoughts? Why the Fed versus SLED?
Because the feds have more money.
That's right. They have more money. They can print money, right?
Right.
They can print money. They can borrow on our behalf. State, it's harder for state and local municipality to print money. The only way they can print money is by collecting taxes or by issuing bonds. And the federal can do. They have more larger audience to collect taxes from, and they can do bonds a lot easier than state and local municipalities. So they can borrow money. Whereas state and local, it's harder for them to borrow money. They can create revenue for their use from taxes and from some bonds and a few other mechanisms, but it's harder for them. They have less flexibility. Feds, they have lots of options. So that's one reason they have more money. The second reason, but I think maybe even more important reason, is that at the federal level, they have the small business certification program, or what they call set-asides. And we talked about earlier, set-asides and then sole source contracts. If you're going to spend energy, if you're limited with resources and you're trying to build relationships, the federal government mandates that 23% of contract must go to small businesses. And 35% of large companies that win federal contract must sub 35% to small businesses. So those are congressional sanctioned regulations that federal agencies must be in compliance with, and large primes must be in compliance with. Where at the state and local level, there's not the set aside the small business program. Those are recommendation goals, and they're not the same, treated the same way, because there's no congressional mandate at the state and local level. So there is some, to some degree, like with the Department of Transportation, but that's mainly just with Department of Transportation, because they get, I would say, the bulk of their funding from the U.S. Department of Transportation. So, so my focus is, hey, focus on the Fed and SLED as a secondary, 80-20 split. The other thing is best value versus LPTA. Now, if you're focused on the Fed, 60% of federal project goes with best value, whereas 40% is LPTA. The state and local level, I would say more so 70 to 80% of all the project starts with LPTA, lowest price, because they have less money. So if you're trying to go with profit margins, low profit margins, state and local is fine. But if you want to go for the best profit margin, the federal market is usually better. Federal, 60, 70%, 60% is best value, 40% LPTA. At the SLED level, 20% is best value, 80% is LPTA. Now that's a general summary. That's not true for every single state, every single city, every single municipality. But this gives you a general sense of it here. And let's move into number 7 here. Another key strategy is start in the niche market that you're good at. Don't try to be everything in the government market. Now, by being a generalist at the federal level, you're going to have more opportunities to contracts. So that is a long-term strategy. But a short-term strategy is start with what you're good at, what you know. So if you're a staffing company, focus on staffing. Don't try to be staffing. Let's assume you do IT staffing. Don't try to do medical staffing, because that's a whole different niche market.
Right.
Start with what you know, and then expand into parallel industry or other niche market as you grow in the market. And then strategy number 8 is co-opetition. Now, co-opetition is a word from cooperate with your competitors. So you're cooperating and you're competing at the same time. And we talked about this here. This is called teaming. Teaming is when 2 or more companies, it could be a teaming of 3 companies, it could be a team of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, anything more than 2 companies coming together is called teaming. And one company is the prime, one company is a sub, or one company can be the prime, 4 or 5 companies can be subcontractors. So competition is very important. This deserves a whole class on joint venturing, subcontracting, teaming, mentor-protege relationship, lots of different things around competition here. So that covers some of the key short-term strategy. Now let's go into long-term strategy. Long-term strategy, one of the key things in terms of a long-term strategy is becoming a generalist. Now, what do you think I mean by being a generalist, Crystal? Your thoughts around that?
A generalist, not having a specialty. Yeah, like you have doctors that are generalists, and then you have doctors that specialize in certain things. So, yeah, so going outside of your specialty, if you have one, would be being a generalist.
Okay, so let's dive deeper into that techniques there. So this is a little bit of what I mean by being a generalist and a specialist. So in the commercial world or the private sector, the person that makes the most money is the specialist, is the celebrity expert, right? So if you're a generalist, let's start with a generalist. Let's use an example of a generalist. So if somebody says, I am a real estate agent. I can do commercial, I can do residential, I can do buyer's agent, seller's agent. I'm a generalist. I can do all those things there. Well, generalists have lots of opportunities, but they make less money. When somebody's a specialist, they say, hey, I'm a real estate agent. I only focus on residential. And I only represent sellers. So when you start to specialize, you can narrow your, what your client base, and by doing that, you can focus and you can make more money. Now, by being an expert in terms of a real estate agent that's an expert, now not only are you a specialist, you are an expert. So for example, I'm a real estate agent. I don't do commercial. I only do residential. I don't do sellers. I just do buyers. I don't focus on every place in the city. I only focus on Hollywood Hills, or I only focus in Atlanta. It would be Buckhead. And so different markets. You say I'm an expert. Any house you want in Buckhead, I know every single house, every listing, I'm friends with the neighbors. I've sold. Last year, I as a buyer's agent, I've helped 50 buyers buy $20 million homes in the Buckhead area. And so if you're an expert, you only deal with multi-million-dollar properties and you only focus on specific niche market, you make more money that way. And you don't have to worry about a broad audience of all kinds of different people. Mm-hmm. Now, celebrity expert, this is where you're like Barbara Corcoran, right? You're like, she's one of the investor on Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. Barbara is a celebrity expert. She's a real estate agent, but she's beyond just a real estate agent and an expert. Her name by itself, if you team up with Barbara, her name will help you make millions, right? So that's where you're a celebrity expert. This is the private sector and the commercial world. That's usually how money is made. So now in the commercial world, it's very different from the government world. In the government world, the people that make the most money are the generalists. So if you are a celebrity expert in the government market, so let's assume that you're Dr. Oz, right? Dr. Oz, and whatever you say, people will just buy it. Well, as a celebrity expert, they could care less who you are in the government market. Your name, your brand, the person may like you. They may say, oh, wow, it's good to meet you. But you're not going to win contract because of your name in the government market. If you are an expert, yeah, they need expert, but dime a dozen. There's a whole bunch of expert in the government market. They know that there's experts out there. They don't care about the expert. What they care about is somebody who's a generalist that can do the type of work that they need to be successful. So, for example, let's use a very specific example around this here. So let's assume that you are what I mean by being a generalist. If you are a plumber and you are a celebrity plumber, you're Joe the plumber, and everybody knows who you are. Well, you make a little bit of money, but in the government world, plumbing, you're not gonna make a lot of money. Every single building needs a plumber. But by being an expert and a specialist as a plumber, it's not gonna make you a lot of money. Why? The government bundle contracts together. So when it comes to plumbing, they say we need a new building. They're not gonna hire a plumbing for a new building. They're gonna find a general contractor, a GC, a general contractor. The general contractor is going to, they expect the general contractor to manage the plumber, to manage the electrician, to manage the roofer, to manage the concrete people, to manage the paving company, to manage all of these specialists, it doesn't matter if you're a celebrity, you're an expert, you're a specialist. The government awards it to a generalist. So by long term, by becoming a generalist, you're going to have the greatest chance of success in the government market. So that's a little bit about this technique here. Next strategy is choose a strategy that's right for you. And everybody has a different end goal, right?
Right.
So for a long-term strategy, the two key things that you want to look at is, do you want to build a legacy company or do you want to sell your company down the road? And based upon your exit strategy, you take a different approach. So if you're building a legacy company, it means that you're going to leave your company to your family, leave it to your next of kin. And so if with that, your goal is cash flow and your goal is profit, right? Very different approach. If you're planning to sell your business and you're building your business to sell, well, what's important to you is different. When you're selling your company, people look at your contract, your past performance, your IP, your assets. They're looking at the people, the team that you have. They're looking at your brand, your reputation. They're looking at the relationships you have. They're looking at the systems that you put in place. And they also look at your profit, your ROI, or your EBITDA. So when you're selling your business, different approach. When you're building a legacy company, it's slightly different. So long term, it depends on what your exit strategies are.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 3, in terms of a long term plan, is creating a passive revenue stream. And when I'm talking about a passive revenue stream, in the government market, there's multi-year contracts, and there could be a 3-year contract, a 5-year contract. I've seen some longer contract. What's the longest you've seen, Crystal, in terms of in the government space? How long is the contract?
I don't know that I've seen any that's longer than 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've only seen 5, but
I've seen 7, I've seen 10, and I've seen 13 years.
Wow.
Imagine being on a contract for 13 years.
Ooh.
I mean, 13 years is a lifetime.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's a teenager. I mean, you have a baby, and 13 years later, that's a teenager.
Right.
They're ready to go conquer the world.
Absolutely.
So I've seen 13-year contracts. So that's creating a residual, sustainable revenue model, and the government is a great place for that. Mm-hmm. They're also understanding the 3 types of revenue model, what I call the 3 L's. L plus L plus L equals L. So first L is linear revenue model. Linear is a transactional revenue model, and it's quick revenue. You have a time, you exchange your time for money, or you exchange a product for a service for money. So this is a linear revenue model. A leverage revenue is you're exchanging differently. You're leveraging other people's money, you're leveraging other people's time, or you're leveraging other people's service or products. So leveraging, we talked about B to B to G earlier. You're leveraging other people's products and not necessarily your own products. If you are hiring people to do work for you as a subcontractor, you're leveraging their time. You're leveraging not necessarily your own time, because you only have 24 hours in a day. You can't do a $10 million project by yourself. So you need to leverage other people's time. So this is another great type of revenue. But then longevity revenue is the passive, it's the recurring, it's the do it once and the money keeps on coming. And sometimes we call this here residual, sometimes we call it passive, recurring. This is the best type of L that you can have, right, is longevity revenue. And then another technique in terms of long-term sustainability in the government is to create your own product. And when you have your own product, for example, if you're a software company, instead of just providing services, developing other people's software, develop your own software and then sell your software, license it to other companies, let other companies sell in the government market. Like, for example, I was working with a company out of the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and they created a budgeting software, I believe with the Navy, but they kept the rights to the software. So the Navy used the budgeting software. They kept the rights to the software, and now they're using that budgeting software for other agencies. Because if one agency has a problem, other agency needs it. So
Right.
creating a software or a product, manufacturing a product, let other people sell it, and so that they do the hard work. You just collect the royalty or the profit margins, or
Mhm.
white label certain products is another way in terms of creating your own products out there. And then, strategy 4 in terms of long-term sustainability is when you become a large company, you think differently. Because as a small business, you're using what's the fastest way to money. But when you're a
Mhm.
large company, you have to think differently. And so when you do that, there now you have to think about M&A, right? Mergers and acquisitions.
Mhm.
So part of growth is buying another business. For example, Crystal, you're an 8A certified company. What happens after you graduate after 9 years of being in the 8A program? Your 8A, contracting vehicle is gone.
Right.
Well, as an 8A company, you can buy another 8A company up to 40% once you graduate out of the 8A program.
Mhm.
Now, if you're not an 8A graduate, you can buy 10% of another 8A company. So
Mhm.
for those of you who are listening, you're not an 8A company. You're never going to have an 8A certification, but you want to go after 8A sole source contract. Well, you can buy another 8A company up to 10%. So that's another vehicle. And then get into a mentor project program as a large company. Creating a mentor project program allows you to go after set-asides, sole source, through a small business partner. And then setting up a small business program. This is very critical in terms of being successful in the government market. In the government, it's called a small business program. In the commercial sector or private sector, it's called supply diversity program. All this helps a business to grow and to have to create a broad supplier base, and also allows you to be more sustainable. And lots of studies have been done that when you have a broad and a approach to inclusion and diversity from an employment perspective and also from a supply perspective, you're more profitable, you're more sustainable. So, but these are some strategies that we talked about today in terms of quick ways to win contract and long-term ways in terms of building a sustainable company out there. So any closing thoughts before we wrap up here, Crystal?
Well, I think this is some great information, given the time of year that we're in. Most businesses are starting to or should be in the process, or maybe even have completed their strategic planning for 2022. But these are some good strategies to consider as you move into the new year, if you're going to, be pursuing government contracts. So I think this was some great information that was shared, and definitely something that, can be applied again during your strategic planning, or at least consider these options.
Absolutely. And for all of you who are listening to this here, in the area down in the more description area on our channel here, we're going to give away this sheet here. We're going to give this strategy sheet here for you, but we want you to be a subscriber. So if you're not a subscriber to a channel, we're not going to give it to you. We need your support, right? We spend time, energy, hang out with you here. So be a supporter of what we're doing. It allows us to spend more time to do what we're doing. So by being a subscriber, on the chat area down there, or in the more information area underneath here, you'll see how you can have access to this document that we're providing. So I appreciate all of you joining us for another episode of Governese today. We want to give you this government contracting strategy checklist here. Make it available to you. Use it to help your business. Subscribe to our channel. Look for the information on how to get access to this document in the bottom area right there. Crystal, any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.
All right, everybody. Hey, enjoy having all of you join us today. Crystal, as usual, a pleasure hanging out with you.
Same
Until
here.
next time, take care, everybody. Our second sponsor is GovGenie. GovGenie, stop wishing, start winning. GovGenie is on a mission to democratize government contracting opportunities for small women and minority-owned businesses. Their objective is to change the disparities for small businesses in the $2 trillion government marketplace. GovGenie is like LinkedIn for government contractors. It is a social CRM unifying the fragmented government procurement lifecycle and uses AI and ML to help users to socialize, foster relationships, find bids, search for teaming partners, manage proposals, source industry events, and facilitate the capture management process. This saves you, the user, money and time with one streamlined platform versus many other disparate software out there. Learn more about GovGenie at govgenie.com. GovGenie.com.